Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Donald Trump is officially the president-elect of the United States, the Electoral College having voted yesterday. Many of Donald Trump's critics, meanwhile, have also reached a milestone. They're officially hysterical, some having reached a diagnosable level of panic and overstatement. It isn't just that the other guy won. In their view, it's the end of civilization itself, the beginning of a post-apocalyptic hellscape where Nazis fill the upper ranks of our government. Where'd they get that idea? Well, maybe from people like our next guest. Tariq Nasheed hosts a podcast, writes books and movies, has his own radio show. He's a robust presence on Twitter where, just this morning, he wrote this, quote, Trump has appointed to his cabinet people from the alt-right, a white supremacist sect that literally throws up Nazi salutes, hashtag never mind president. Tariq joins us now. Tariq, thanks for coming on. So I looked at a list of the president-elect's cabinet appointments. Which one of them throws up Nazi salutes, literally, as you said?
Well, no. Well, Steve Bannon, he's associated with that alt-right organization, which is really nothing more than a sect of white supremacy. And those alt-right people, they were in a federal building at the Ronald Reagan building, throwing up Nazi salutes in the Steve Spencer, all of these, not Steve Spencer, but Richard Spencer, all of these guys are basically open white supremacists who practices Nazism. So, and Trump is associated with that, just like Reverend Wright was associated with Barack Obama, and you people here criticized him for that.
You don't say he was associated.
Yes.
You said appointed people to his cabinet who throw up Nazi salutes. Steve Bannon, by the way, is not in the cabinet. Has Steve Bannon thrown up a Nazi salute that you are aware of or can prove?
But Steve Bannon is a part, and he was representing that whole alt-right movement. So if we're going to play
Steve Bannon at this meeting? I mean, what does Steve Bannon have to do with it?
Well, the same thing. He was associated with the people doing it. Just like how you guys associate me with Black Lives Matter, and I have nothing to do with it. Steve Bannon was representing, and he was associated with those alt-right people who are nothing more than white supremacists. And if we can go deeper than that,
okay,
and if we go deeper than that, with the Trump, if we go deep, but we haven't gone deep enough, Tucker. But I want to get factual too. But the whole campaign was run on a white supremacist platform. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Here's my point. You have a lot of venues. People listen to you. You've got 160,000 Twitter followers. You've written a bunch of books. People believe you. And people are worried about Trump, and they don't know what this administration is going to look like. And here you come out in public this morning and say he's appointed people to his cabinet who are Nazis, literally, to quote you, who are giving the Nazi salute. And that's not actually true. And you knew it wasn't true when you said it, and yet you're whipping people into a frenzy.
And it's not true when you're
fear.
saying it now. It's not true when you're saying it now because I didn't say that. And that's the problem with systematic white supremacy. You get to label people and say that they said things that they didn't say. No, you didn't read my tweet. No, you didn't read my tweet. You just put your own thing to it, Tucker, which is kind of something that you do. Ask me what I said, and I'll be glad to answer that, Tucker.
Here's what you wrote.
But don't add nothing else to it, though.
Just want to jog your memory now, Tariq. Trump has appointed people
to his cabinet. I know what I said. I know what I said, Tucker.
Who literally throw Nazi salutes, and that's just not true. So my question is, isn't it irresponsible of you to say something that inflammatory that you know isn't true? Look, you may disagree with Trump, and that's fine, but he hasn't appointed Nazis to his cabinet.
What you're saying isn't true. Sir, he's appointing a guy who's associated with the alt-right, and the alt-right, they are literally throwing up Nazi signs. Not only that, Donald Trump himself, he is disenfranchised and discriminated against black people his whole career. So this is not something that I'm just reaching out of a bag. And there's other people associated with Trump in the cabinet who have practiced systematic racism for years. So I'm just not pulling anything out of a bag. Even in the campaign, black people were getting beat up and called racial names. So I'm not pulling something out of thin air, Tucker. I'm not pulling anything out of thin air.
Really quick questions. What do you think if there are literally Nazis in the cabinet, what do you think Ben Carson, who's going to be the HUD secretary, thinks of that? Is he involved in that too?
Well, just because you get an individual black person and tokenize that black person, no matter how qualified he is, no matter how qualified a black person is, if you tokenize a black person and put him in a system of white supremacy, that doesn't negate the system of white supremacy. You just put a black person as the face of white supremacy. Nothing more, nothing less.
Okay. So I'd want to ask you about some stuff that you've written because I think it's important for viewers to know who you are, okay? Because people take you seriously. Now, you are, in addition to a lot of other things, the author of a number of books on dating. One of them is called The Art of Macking. You've written a couple others. And I just want to read you, I was reading it today, it's an interesting book. Chapter 6, Guaranteed Ways to Get Sex from Women. And I'm quoting you. In this chapter, I will give some tried and proven techniques that will help you talk a woman into giving it up. I will also offer you precise rebuttals to every objection a woman may have to giving it up. You say this, the #1 lame thing men say to get sex, I love you. You describe that as the bold lie approach. And then you say this: if a woman isn't ready for sex, you quote, 1, question her maturity, 2, minimize the significance of sex, and 3, tell her what she wants to hear. Now, you're advocating lying in order to take advantage of women sexually. This is in your book. I'm not misquoting it. Why should we believe anything that you say if you're counseling people to say, I love you, and lie to women in order to get them in bed?
Tucker, the fact that you're this desperate to get one of my books, which is a book on satire, it's a tongue-in-cheek book. The book was written in a comedic fashion, and the fact that you're getting that to try to justify disenfranchising me, to try to minimize the significance of what I do in the system, that's so cheap, Tucker.
I was just joking, Ruth. So actually, I read about 10 interviews you did on the...
Tucker, don't be a sucker, Tucker.
Okay, so here's an interview you gave to Esquire.
That's so cheap, Tucker.
That is so cheap, it's a legitimate question. You said
Tucker,
this,
I'm talking about systematic white supremacy, and you're trying to discredit me by getting a quote from my book, which is tongue-in-cheek, which is about relationships. A lot of the book is satire, it's comedic, and that's so cheap, Tucker. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, Tucker.
Let me just say, I don't think that you're being tongue-in-cheek, and the scores of interviews you did and the 2 follow-up books you wrote on this exact subject, how to lie to women to have sex with them.
The book has so many comedic sections in it, but I don't get them.
But it raises the question,
go ahead, Tucker.
Are you being tongue-in-cheek now with all this race war stuff you're constantly talking about? He's a white supremacist, they're Nazis.
I'm not, because white supremacy is not tongue-in-cheek. Okay, we live in a system. Of white supremacy, and white supremacy is not a joke. White supremacy is not a joke. We live in a system that's dominated in all areas of activity of white supremacy. So I take that very seriously, sir.
So but you're making specific allegations that are untrue, and you know that they're untrue because you're not stupid.
I'm not.
You know exactly what you're doing.
I'm not. You're trying to put words in my mouth, but I'm not shocked.
And that's fine. But does it occur to you? It's very simple. And last question: does it occur to you that people believe you, and that you increase the temperature of race hatred in this country, and that long-term that might lead to some really bad things? Do you feel responsible for that?
You mean like black people getting harmed in all areas of activity, like black people getting shot legally and executed legally? What have you done to, Tucker, what have you done to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of justice?
I'm calling you out for lying. That's what I do. That's my contribution today.
For replacing... Okay, Tucker.
Yeah. Tariq, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us tonight. Happy Kwanzaa to you.